as we approach preseason game 2, B, let's take a look at what we know. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Landini. I think people get so caught up in the 53 because they got to release 37 guys. I think we know who 48 of the dudes are right now. And as I say this all the time, there's going to be injuries that eventually will impact this thing. We're already kind of seeing it. Like I think right now, I would wager that week 1 starting left tackle is Cornelius Lucas, because I just don't know what's happening with this Coleman thing. I don't think he's going to play tomorrow. I don't think he's going to practice tomorrow. I don't think he's going to play Saturday night. I don't think they would then play him in the 3rd preseason game. Maybe they would. I don't know. But to me, it's tracking like Lucas, Allegretti, Biotish, Cosme, Wiley. That's what it's tracking like, right? Like a lot of these things, injuries make an impact. Like for all the angst over Jamin Davis, I think this Jordan McGee injury almost makes Davis a lock because he's one of few people that can kind of do a few different things.
Yeah. Totally.
Let's start at the quarterback position where I don't think there's much intrigue. Landville, you think Jaden Daniels makes the team? Should we angst over that?
I do think he'll make it.
Me too.
You know, all things considered, I think he's got a spot on the team.
I agree. Jaden Mariota or locks. I think with a rookie quarterback listen, Jaden's been super impressive. There still are some questions about the frame and a 17-game NFL schedule. I think you keep 3 quarterbacks. Now, you do have more viability, like you have more flexibility because of the practice squad rules and being able to elevate Saturday night. But I think they keep 3 quarterbacks. I think the 3rd quarterback is Driscoll.
Yeah.
Does that sound right to you?
It looks good. It sounds like it's going to be there. And now that Hartman has gotten hurt, I think Driscoll has the hand on that. Hartman may go to practice squad.
I thought Hartman was a practice squatter anyway, but I certainly think that way now, because I don't know what's going to happen with the shoulder injury, and he's not going to play this week. Onward and upward. The running back position is pretty damn interesting. I think B. Robin Eckler, obviously, right?
Yep.
McNichols McNichols got the first non-Robinson Eckler work.
But Wiley did impress.
And I think McNichols on Monday was in a non-contact jersey. But they were in shells anyway, so I don't know how much contact there was. RB3 remains to be seen. I think it could be Wiley. He had the touchdown. You do have Chris Rodriguez out there. That was a draft pick by the last group. But sometimes you got to just watch what's happening out there, and it seems like they don't view Rodriguez as their 3rd back. I think they're only keeping 3 backs. And then they put one of them to the practice squad, and they can elevate.
I still believe that you're going to have 4.
You think?
I think that because you're not really trying to push your 2 starters as special teamers.
True. But it seems like for a return role.
Not necessarily a return role, but special team. And right now, you got to realize that they want to see whatever they can see in a lot of people. So some guys that they may be leaning towards or may not be getting that chance right now because you already know that they're capable of doing it. So you want to see other guys do some stuff because I think, like you said earlier, they're going to see competition at different levels. So there are people competing now that they want to see early to make sure they make a right decision on them too, I would think.
So if you're looking at the kick returns, the returners, at least in the first game against the Jets, I think OZ stood out. OZ is clearly on the roster.
OZ is a guy who has shown he can do multiple things. So more than likely, he is on the roster.
I don't even think it's more than likely. I'm willing to enter lock territory for Olamide.
Well, I tell you, Jay, I don't ever say nothing about lock because things happen from one point to the next. So, whatever. But I just say right now, I don't know.
You're right. OZ, it's probably. There are things that are locks. John Allen is a lock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
OZ's probably Terry McLaurin. But all right, you got to maybe keep him 4 running backs then. That's interesting to me because I think McNichols, Wiley, maybe even C-Rod, like you could probably get those guys to your practice squad, and then have that roster spot, have that roster flexibility. Here's my question then. If you want to keep 4 running backs, then you're certainly only keeping 3 tight ends. Ertz, to me, Sennett, Bates, complete locks. I think Cole Turner is showing them something. Now, there are games remaining here, but I think Turner is a really interesting situation, and I think the way he showed up in New York in that game turned some heads because he was physical as hell, and that's been the knock.
But now you got to do it again.
Totally.
Yeah.
If it was me, and you might disagree with this, I would lean towards keeping 4 tight ends and 3 backs and making room somewhere else rather than 4 backs and
Which
3
of those
tight
4
ends.
tight ends will play special teams real well for you?
Sennett, Bates, Turner all have to. Period.
But I'm saying, you're saying Sennett, Bates, Turner, but you don't want to put one of those 3 in harm's way because you're damn. If
all 3 of those dudes are special teamers.
Yeah, you got all 3 of them. But I'm saying now, normally, if you can get starters that are not going to have to really worry about it, they'll play if they have to. What if if Ertz gets nicked up? Then what happens?
They're still special teamers.
Yeah, but at that point, you don't want that to happen. If your starter is playing special teams, that's a problem.
But Ertz isn't.
That's what I'm saying. He has a history of injuries, don't he? What if he gets nicked up?
I mean, I think you probably move Sennett up.
Okay, you move him up, then you're going to keep playing him on special teams?
You kind of have that dilemma with any position beyond quarterback.
No, not normally. Normally, when you.
So what are you saying then?
I'm saying
keep a 5th. You want Yankoff on there?
I'll keep the 4th running back because you got 2 legit starters at running back. Those other 2 guys, that's what they do. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, it's an interesting. Who are the 4 backs you're keeping then?
At this point, I can't tell you who the 4 backs are.
But you're leaning Wiley.
I'm leaning Wiley for sure.
Okay.
And the kid McNichols, they like him, but I think Wiley played better in that game. Rodriguez, I really like, but I don't think he got much opportunity.
Which tells you something.
And he played a little bit in slow motion. I think once he got hit in the knee, I think his speed dropped down. So the guy came crash down and caught him in his knee. Maybe he got a little injured there. I don't know.
You don't want to overly point to statistics. Chris Rodriguez in that first preseason game against the Jets had 6 carries for 0 yards. Wiley had 8 for 34, average 4.3 a pop. B-Rob 5 for 20. Kid Jones that was at USC with Cliff. I don't think we should ignore that. 2 for 13. McNichols had 3 carries for 10 yards. Jaden Daniels had the most important 1 for 3. Let's talk about the wideout room. Terry, Jahan, Luke. I'll put Diami. There's no discussion there. Terry and Jahan are established. Luke was just drafted by this group. Diami has had a really good camp, and at least in the first game has showed that it's there. Dan Quinn, every chance he gets, talks about Diami Brown. I got those 4. I'd probably go OZ after that. That's 5. If you disagree with anything I'm saying, you let me know.
Go
ahead. It gets interesting because they brought in Pringle, right? They just did that. But honestly, the dude that just keeps making plays of this group, Tinsley was on the roster last year. They just brought in Pringle. You still have Crowder. Kaz Allen, I think, is interesting. But the dude that has made the most plays consistently is Bryson Tremaine. And he gives them something different, that he's a big body.
Mm-hmm.
But what the hell does the arrival of Martavis Bryant do to the bottom of this thing? And we don't know yet.
Be honest with you, Jay. I think you look at Terry. I don't think Jahan is going anywhere.
Right.
I believe that Zacchaeus is on this team. I believe that McCaffrey is on this team. At that point, I'm not concerned about how they get the other 2.
I would put Diami in that category, too.
I forgot. Diami, that's 5.
That's 5.
So I'm not concerned the last one. Because that last one is going to have to be able to play special teams and probably won't get much play.
What's interesting is a dude like Martavis Bryant's not – is he playing special teams at 32 and he hasn't played in 6 years?
If he want to be in the NFL,
Right.
If he's hungry, he'll play whatever the hell they ask him to play.
Honestly, I mean, if we're really playing this out and getting to week 1 in Tampa, the 6 wide receiver is going to be inactive anyway. That dude isn't even dressing.
Probably won't. So my that's what I'm saying. Like at this point, I don't think we can decide who, because this game you're going to see. I would think the starters go a little longer. I think you're going to see Mariota go a little longer, which means more guys get opportunities. What if
You
somebody?
think Jaden and Mariota have the first half, or do you think Mariota might
I
come
think
into
they'll
the
play
third
probably
quarter?
the same amount of series.
I think they each get 3, something like
So
that.
if they go anywhere 2 to 3 series and then they go out there and they play, you still want to have the best receivers and stuff with them, because now you get to decide. That first game is not going to tell me who to pick before seeing the second game. Now, after the second game, we can start looking at the days and stuff.
I think we're going to learn a lot more tomorrow and Saturday than necessarily we did against the Jets. I think between Jaden and Mariota, they play the first half, and then I think, especially with this injury, Driscoll gets the whole second half. I did want to say this. I think Colson Yankoff has a real good shot at a practice squad here. Going back to rookie camp, every time they ask him to do something, he makes the catch, he makes the block. Like he's looked pretty good. Now, I don't think he has a roster spot, but I think that's a guy you keep in your building and see what happens. And to your earlier point, Ertz is a guy that's gotten banged up over the last few years.
Yeah.
Like maybe you get to Thanksgiving and that's something you need.
Is Yankoff a guy you really want to go out there and show, because you put him on your practice squad, somebody sign him off of it?
I mean, that
it's
you
like,
got to run that risk.
It's a lot of games that are played in that whole little thing where I like this guy. We don't want to show too much more. He don't get a chance to play. We go, oh, he's gone. But they have a plan to put him on practice squad. If you got some plan, and I'm just throwing hypotheticals for people start saying, I'm saying who they putting on practice squad. If you you want to keep somebody, normally you kind of hide them in a sense without playing them.
Here's my other thing with the running back tight end situation. We've seen it a lot that Sinnott is legitimately getting some fullback work. There are some packages, some goal line stuff where Sinnott is on the field in the backfield.
Yeah.
I think that doesn't necessarily impact those final roster numbers of RB 3 and 4 or tight end 3 and 4. But like that is something to consider, that he will have some of those roles.
But like putting him in the backfield doesn't necessarily mean fullback sub H-back.
Yeah.
That's what the H-back, that's what Joe Gibbs lived off
of. Jeffrey, who's your 6th wideout?
Cam Sims.
Oh, my guy.
I don't know who I would make my 6th wideout right now, JP. I honestly will have to look more into the preseason.
Okay. Landini, who's your 6th wideout?
I mean, I guess it's going to be De'Ami Brown.
I got him 4th, dude.
He's 6 for me. I can't admit that I was completely wrong by putting him 4.
So who are your 6 then? Obviously, Terry, Jahan, Luke, OZ. If De'Ami's 6, who's 5? Martavis Bryant?
Yeah.
God bless you, Landfill. Jeff, so you know, buddy, Cam Sims is a free agent. He's out there. He's available.
They're not calling him. Don't worry.
You want to try to run through this O-line, and then we can do the defensive side of the ball? What do you want me to, Landini? I'll listen to you. You got Big Luke, Allegretti. I'm going kind of starters first. Biotish, Cosme, Wiley, then obviously Coleman. So that's 6. Dieter's your backup center. He's on the roster. Everybody needs a backup center.
Yeah,
that's 7. Chris Paul and Mason Brooks have been getting a lot of work
name for themselves right now
on the tackles.
Yep, they're doing that.
I tell you what, man, it doesn't seem like a great time to be a fellow like Ricky Stromberg. The bottom of the O-line room, I think, is still very much to be determined. They just signed this guy, Alex Taylor, who's massive, 6'8", 301. I think it sure seems to me that Paul and Brooks have some sort of lead on this. That, the way Paul, he started at tackle for them. This guy's been a guard his whole career. Braden Daniels is a fourth rounder from last year that on that Wiley touchdown in the second half of that Jets game, Daniels threw a hell of a block.
Mhm.
Like, I don't think we have any idea. Trent Scott is another part of this
Trent's still around,
conversation.
and Trent can play both sides.
He can line up at both sides.
But the whole thing, though, Jay, I mean, we can't look at a play and make decisions per week. Daniels couldn't get on the field.
Right.
He goes and have one block. I'm not automatically moving him up.
I'm not
after
either.
one block.
I'm just saying he also needed a year to add weight, and maybe that has worked, right? I don't know. We need to see more, and I think tomorrow and Saturday will be real opportunities, and I think particularly at the O-line, injuries will be a factor. Like, something typically is going to happen on the O-line, but I am fascinated. The few things offensively I'm fascinated by is what they decide, running back, tight end. Like, are you going to 7 between those two positions?
Mhm.
And if so, who's getting the 4th spot? The 6th wideout seems up in the air to me. If I had to pick right now, I think it would be Tremaine. I think he'd be the most deserving. And then how they fill out the bottom of the O-line.
What happens with Pringle? They brought him back.
They did. But they could have brought him back in March.
But I'm saying they could have, but they brought him back now. So the whole thing is Tremaine is the guy who gives us something different. Pringle's about the same height as Tremaine. Then you bring in what's called yesterday.
Tremaine's bigger.
I mean, mate, he's taller.
Right.
But the ultimate thing, you brought in another guy that looks like Tremaine yesterday. So if anybody got a question, I'm questioning that position.
That's fair. And dude, like, all Tremaine is doing, who they had on the practice squad all last year, just makes plays every time his number's called. I think you're right, though, that Pringle they clearly like as a kick returner. But if Kaz can do it, if Kaz can catch the ball, where does Kaz land on
Catching
this?
the ball is vitally important if you're going to be doing that.
Because, B, we haven't even mentioned Kaz as far as a 6 wideout. You can't make the roster unless you got something.
There you go.
We're going to keep breaking this down. We're going to go to the defensive side of the ball.